into the Rion Frequency, where truth cuts deep, growth hits different, and culture leads the conversation. Hosted by Rion, this is the Come Up for the Culture.
I want to speak about black excellence. The fact that my brown skin feels heaven sent. When the wind blows, I feel the touch of heaven's breath. You brainwash your intelligence is evident. Evidence we built some pyramids that claim it's aliens. Melanin skin absorbs the light inside you radiant. Elevate your conscience, stuck inside the office. Employee of the month, they won't even put that in your coffin. Let's talk about the profit, the margins of spilled your bonnet. Drinking water from your faucet, just to give you droplets. If you in the club, it's popping. Penny, that's the option. Pictures that you prompted, but forget it cause you locked in. Living in the moment. Ryan said it's token, if you black, poor, you broken. Black excellence, when they spill our blood, it's loading. The third eye, the karma gates is open, but death is better than bondage. Yeah, that's the option. Stay cautious, stay dangerous. You don't need no accolades, nigga, you famous. Stay dangerous.
What's up, world? You are now tapped into the Rion Frequency, and this is where thoughts meet elevation so that we can remember who we are. I'm your host, Rion, and last week we kind of went off script a little bit. You know, it went into a different direction, but I actually like where the topic is going. So this week we're back to discuss why black sustainability is a threat, why they burn down our progress and then call us dangerous. Because I don't know if y'all know or notice, but every time black folks start building something beautiful, something big, somebody somewhere gets real nervous about what we're doing. And I'm not talking about just, calling the police on bird watchers nervous. I'm talking about summoning the National Guard type of nervous. Like, why the fuck are y'all so mad? We didn't do nothing but mind our brilliance. That's it. And this rage continues to show up. It torches places like Charlottesville and legislations in the state capitals. You know, the rage is still hanging brothers from trees and light posts in 2025. You know, the white rage is trying to gerrymander and cheat in Texas. And the white rage of these crackers crying about reverse racism, like everything in this country wasn't systematically tailored for them. So how the fuck you create the game? You make the rules and then rig the game and still fucking lose. We're going to break down why whiteness panics at the sight of black self-sufficiency and really why our success feels like their loss. And more so, we're going to dive into why black futures always seem to be met with white flames. Now, before we can have this discussion, honestly, we got to back this thing up before the change, before the auction blocks, before the textbooks got real dusty and dishonest. And we need to discuss what's true, okay? Because contrary to historical context, prior to chattel slavery, we were engineers, we were mathematicians, we were architects, astronomers, philosophers, not slaves, not slaves waiting on an upgrade. We were already a civilized people. We built cities like Timbuktu, where the libraries held more knowledge than most Ivy League campuses today, okay? This is the intellectual capital of the world. And there wasn't a white contribution in sight. None of that plagiarized bullshit that the white supremacists tried to make real. They called Socrates the father of Western philosophy. And he was more like a stepdaddy, okay? Because all of them real roots, they came from Africa. Plato studied in Kemet, okay, what we consider today as Egypt, for years. And Aristotle, he studied at schools that were copying scrolls straight from the Nile Valley. They didn't invent this thought. They translated our brilliance and then slapped their names on it. Like all things. Like all things. How many black creatives have their ideas plagiarized and stolen? Like, how often does this happen? Because if we're paying attention, it's an all the time thing. Greek philosophy is African spirituality with a Greek accent. Period. Like they went to Africa for the knowledge, and then they came back and acted like their thoughts were original. That is not philosophy. That is intellectual gentrification. Yet again. So remember everything that I just said. The next time that white supremacist propaganda tries to convince you that black folks are ignorant. There were thousands of manuscripts, math, science, astronomy, and philosophy. We mapped out the stars. We ran universities. We irrigated the land and structured the economies. Timbuktu Sankore University had lecture halls and libraries and scholars who debated astronomy, medicine, law, and theology. This was before Oxford. This was before Harvard. Before Europe was even washing their legs properly. Still ain't washing their legs properly, if we being honest. But how do Western schools operate today? Structured curriculum with degrees, peer-reviewed knowledge, all that. We did that first. And then it got weaponized against us. African societies didn't need jails filled with folks wearing orange jumpsuits and working for 10 cents an hour. They had restorative justice systems. They had elder councils, the precursors to the courts, and meditation practices, which is what the modern form of arbitration is based on. We had community restitution and not incarceration. And then you can guess where Europe got its early frameworks for the courts. The Moors. We talked about a little bit about the Moors in the last episode. When they entered Spain in the 700s, they brought laws, codes, literacy, and actual functioning justice systems. So please don't let the powder wigs fool you. Democracy didn't start in Greece. The Igbo people of Nigeria practiced village democracy long before Plato ever put a pen to papyrus. They held community votes, council debates, checks and balances. It was consensus driven. Elderly led, but the youth was engaged. It was matriarchal, heavily influenced. Yes, that's right. That means that the women had most of the say-so. In today's town halls, legislation, assemblies, representative voting systems really owe that debt to African political traditions. We were running banks in West Africa before Europe even had centralized currencies. The Yoruba had cowrie shell systems backed by a commodity value. The Axumites Empire minted gold and silver coins with their own ruler's face on them. Okay, centuries before the British pound ever existed. We had trade guilds. Market regulation, check that too. Economic zones and credit systems, check. We were sustainable in our own right, economically, spiritually. So they lied to you when they told you that we weren't civilized. They burned the historical text and erased our history and replaced it with a lie that says that we were born into bondage and that we needed saving by the same people who came with crosses and chains in the same bag. And the lie is the fuel for the rage that we see today. We look to post-emancipation. We know historically what the value is. After we were kidnapped and forced to be here, and then they decided that they needed us in a different capacity, so they decided to free us. We hadn't even really fully healed from the whip wounds, but we did get our freedom. Yeah, but we didn't get no land, we didn't get no money, we didn't get no therapy, we didn't get no reparations. We didn't get any infrastructure. We had no foundation. But like all things that black folks do, when the world breaks us, or at least tries to, and walks away, we just continue to build. We built it from scratch. We built it from pain. We built it from brilliance. And we built some fucking masterpieces. Right after emancipation, black folks didn't sit around waiting for handouts that we knew we was never going to get. Modern day white folks will vote against their own interest because someone told them that we are waiting on handouts. We ain't waiting on shit. We don't have to. We are the blueprint. Understand? Y'all gonna feel me? Once I get finished with this, just hear me out. White people still make the majority of welfare recipients, and I wonder why that is. We took our skills, the same ones that built this country for free. Yeah, we built for ourselves. We bought land, often from the same oppressors who once owned us. We built schools, newspapers, banks, train stations. We farmed and invested. We politicked. We innovated. Visionaries like O.W. Gurley, a wealthy black landowner who bought 40 acres and made black-owned only everything. He didn't just build a town. He created a closed-loop economy for black folks. Money circulated 19 times before it left the community. And I need you to let that marinate on you for a second. Now, today, it's a mere hours before our money is handed over to someone else. They had over 600 businesses, movie theaters, hospitals, law offices, and 2 black-owned airports. And this was in 1921. And then what happened? in less than 24 hours, in June of 1921, white mobs, white rage, backed by local officials, they burned it all to the ground, and over 35 blocks incinerated, and it killed hundreds and left thousands of people displaced. You know, insurance companies used to pay out for slaves. However, the insurance companies, when Black Wall Street was burned down to the ground, they didn't pay anything. They refused to pay, again, leaving us disenfranchised after we had already built something. You know, they want us to always pick ourselves up by our bootstraps, and when we do, they come tear it down. Rosewood, Florida. This was a town built by black lumber workers and farmers. It was self-sufficient, it was economically independent, and it was peaceful. But in 1923, based on a lie from a white woman, and here we go again with these white women. Like in a future episode, we gonna talk about white women. But a white mob fueled by rage and entitlement, you know, reduced it to ashes. Survivors fled into the swamps with virtually nothing but the clothes on their back. Generations of lost land, wealth, and legacy. And then there was Wilmington. Now, Wilmington was a bit different because it wasn't just a black town. It had political power. By the late 1800s, black people and the white allies were running the city. The local paper was owned by black folks. Black folks were elected into public office. And you know, that alone scares the shit out of white supremacists. So in 1898, they orchestrated the only successful coup d'etat in U.S. history. Armed white mobs overthrew the local government. They killed black leaders in broad daylight and rewrote the story like it was restoring order. They wasn't restoring shit. They didn't just burn the buildings. They burned the history books. Then, in 1887, founded by formerly enslaved black men, Isaiah Montgomery and Benjamin Green, there was Mound Bayou, was black owned and black led from the gate. It had schools and hospitals and banks and zero tolerance for racism. Even Booker T. Washington called it a model for black independence. And while it wasn't destroyed like the others, it was economically choked out and snuffed out by systemic disinvestment, blocked railways, and redlined. They don't always have to use fire. Sometimes they just have to starve you out. You know, do you see the pattern? Whenever black people create self-sustaining communities, whenever we prove that we don't need white approval, money, or proximity, they never applauded us. They annihilated us. Because our success is proof that they were never necessary. And it's that kind of proof that is a problem when the society is built on a lie. So we gotta keep it 100 when we talking about this rage. It ain't just some like random anger. It's institutional and generational. It's been passed down like grandma's silverware. But instead of forks, you know, it's flags, Confederate flags. And instead of family recipe, it's just family resentment. You know, Papa and Mima and all them, they hated niggas, so I gotta hate niggas too. But really don't have a reason. Don't understand it. Don't understand how weak white supremacy really is. Don't understand how flawed the ideology is. It's just generational. It's inside of them. But the rage that we talking about, you know, it's not because black people did something wrong. We never did anything wrong. It is because we did something right. We proved that we never needed them. The whole white supremacist framework is built on one fundamental lie. It's that black people are inferior and they're incapable and in constant need of guidance. You know, it's the white savior complex on steroids. But the second we show self-reliance, community cohesion, innovation, brilliance, healing, and resilience, that lie starts shaking in its boots because it understands that the house of cards is about to fall. Understand that white supremacy was never necessary. White superiority isn't real. So hear me when I declare this. White supremacy ain't never built us. It really only ever tried to bury us. It didn't educate us. It withheld education, and then we went and taught ourselves. It didn't employ us, it locked us out, and then we built our own businesses. It didn't protect us, it lynched us. So we created our own defense leagues and justice campaigns. It didn't invest in us, it redlined us. And we still bought land. We created co-ops and learned to pool our wealth. Don't ever get it twisted. Black progress has always happened in spite of white supremacy, not because of it. So then we really got to ask ourselves, why the rage then? Why burn everything down to the ground? Because if we're not dependent on white validation, if we stop needing to integrate into white spaces that were never built for us, if we realize that we can eat good at our own tables and not have to try to sit at theirs, the whole structure of white supremacy collapses under its own delusion. White rage is really just insecurity. It's a fear. It's what happens when you think you're the main character and you're not in the story anymore. So you got to ask yourself, why they spend so much time trying to rewrite our history books? Why are they banning critical race theory? Why are they trying to control the narrative about slavery, civil rights, and even black joy? Because the truth is a direct threat to the lie that props up this very power, this very system. White supremacy, not only is it not necessary, it's a distraction. It's poison disguised as power. It's never liberated anyone, not even white people. It's literally enslaved everybody, even the folks who thought that they were on top. White supremacy has created a world where even white people suffer from it. White people got to unsubscribe to white supremacy. I feel like y'all are not the benefactors that you think you are, because you can't build a society based on domination and expect to harvest peace. We never needed them to save us. We need them to get the fuck out of the way. That's what we need, white supremacy and white folks who have those ideologies. We need y'all to get the fuck out the way. They tried to burn it all down. Burn everything down. The black towns, black schools, black futures. And reduce everything to smoke and footnotes. But the one thing that they forgot is that you can burn a house down. But if you didn't take out and kill the architect, we're just going to build again. And again and again and again and again. And we do. They thought that the fires and lighting the flames underneath it were enough to end us. But really for us, the flames were just the beginning. We rise from the ash. We don't just rebuild in anything. Like, we remix it and we make it better. They are scared of that brilliance, and still are today. So let them be angry while we stay organized. Let them relish in the past of what they consider glory, historically inaccurate accounts of what they deem is real. But historical accuracy will call them insignificant. We are building futures that they can no longer control. So they call us dangerous. Dangerous is just an enlightened mind. We're dangerous because those lies we know are lies. We know that they are untrue. We're dangerous to a myth of white superiority. We are dangerous to systems that were built on stolen land and on borrowed time. Our ancestors, they lit the first spark. And now the wildfire has been set ablaze. But not only flames going up, black brilliance is going up. So we continue to let them panic. We let them ban the books and build the bunkers and all these all white unvaccinated towns where they will ultimately succumb to the same demise that true history reveals. The same famines, the same plagues, they will succumb to all of those things. But us, we will continue to build. We will build legacies and land trusts and LLCs and libraries. We are lighting torches like angry lynch mobs in the night. The only difference is that our torch is led simply by us because we are the light. We're not victims. We're not trying to survive nothing. We're the blueprint and we're reclaiming our design. I'll leave y'all with this thought that Black history is the blueprint because it predates, it underpins, and outpaces all of Western civilization, from science and philosophy to governance, community building. The foundations of human progression all trace back to African innovation. Black people are the design. We are the blueprint. We are living embodiments of resilience, brilliance, culture that has not only shaped the past, but continues to redefine our futures. White supremacy is in contrast. It is not a source of power, but it is a reaction to power. It's an insecure system built to suppress the very genius that it itself cannot replace. Its existence is proof of our significance, and their eventual irrelevance is inevitable because the original can never be erased by the imitation. This is the Rion Frequency, and this is the come up for the culture. So until the next time, stay royal, stay rooted, and keep that frequency high.
This was the Rion Frequency, where the wealth conversation starts with mindset and ends in legacy. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, rate us 5 stars, drop a review, and help the algorithm find the culture. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, smash the like. The come up is now in session.